Hello, McDoes. Hello, man. Let me check my sound. Make sure everything's okay. Hello, McDoes. Hello, man. Yeah. One of these days, I'll do a sound thing, and we'll start turning all these buttons and dials on this mic and see what they actually do. Oh man. So, hello, McTels. There's nobody in today. I'm talking to myself right now. I don't know if I'm actually being broadcasted, but that's okay. That's norm. That is a norm. Today we're going to talk about normalcy. We're going to talk about the return to normalcy. We're going to talk about what's normal in our society, uh, probably what's normal in people, uh, and normal in science. And science and sociology are two different things. We can't mix them. We can't put these things together. Hello, Brissy boy. I do have someone watching. uh, so, as we return to normal and we get out these coronavirus shots and everything, and that's supposed to bring us back to normal. We have to start asking ourselves what normal is and how we achieve normalcy. And in everyday life, what is normal for you? You get up, you brush your teeth. Most people do, huh? Make yourself a cup of coffee. Do a household chore. You put your laundry in the washing machine. Pick up the beer cans that are scattered over the floor. Yeah, that would be normal for a lot of people. But what's normal in a normal world is a different question. It's a sociological question. What's normal within the science of these systems? These uh, these humongous systems that are supposed to be taking care of our welfare in our country and everything. Normalcy would be, you know, a normal amount of food getting to your grocery store, which we've seen breaks in that and caused. It's caused a lot of uproar, discontinuation of services such as water or electric, stuff like that, which is pretty much taken care of in America, where I live, in most countries, by a corporation. They've been privatized. And that would be normal to have those things. The expectation of normal would be to have those things fixed immediately, which we've seen a breakdown in Texas lately. We're probably going to talk about Texas and normalcy a little bit, as for the rest of the 51 states. Uh, what's happening at the border? There's a new crisis. No, it's not really a crisis. 3,200 kids have been 3,200 children have been left on the doorstep of America, and I think that's not a normal condition. Uh, when parents feel the need to, hello, Forrest, hello, Frizzy. When parents feel a need to dump their children at a border in hopes that another country seen as better will take them. This only seems what is normal, and I was thinking about normal and health and human services. I often talk about health and human services because of the overlap with MGTOW right there, right there, MGTOW, which I am and which I practice and which I do, and my philosophical roots come from MGTOW, and and we ask what's normal within these institutions, administrations of health and human services to take care of these 32. There's still only 3,200 kids. There's 320 million Americans, and that would be a percentage. If every American donated 1 cent, all these kids would be taken care of. But there seems to be a bottleneck, and a bottleneck, unbeknownst to the administration of Texas or the people that live in Texas, is health and human services. Health and human services, we give $3.6 trillion a year, far more than we've ever gave out to the American people in stimulus packages, and $51 trillion for during the last 20 or 30 years. to Health and Human Service to be prepared for events such as the pandemic, which they were really underprepared for. How many of you guys can go down to? How many of you guys can go down to your local hospital, which is part of Health and Human Service, or the clinic that I have up the street, and receive the vaccination? None of us can. It's all up to the CDC to make these, and that's why I want to talk about normacy in these positions. The normal part of the duty of the government would be to just drop it to Health and Human Services. They are the people that are supposed to take care of these things, and they would administer the shots to every one of the people that are signed up through insurance or non-insurance or Medicaid or Medicare in their communities. But they're not doing that. They've dropped the ball. They sent it off to another administration called the CDC in America, and it's very abnormal. You have to go. They're opening up. I become eligible this week to go down and get a shot, so I tried to sign up. And every website that I signed up on says there is no place in my general area within 50 miles that I can go in these massive vaccination sites that they have and go get a vaccine. So I'm stuck. I'm stuck out in the boonies where I prefer to be away from the abnormal people of the city. This is normal. This is a cup of Guatemalan coffee. I got high mountain Guatemalan coffee. It's delicious because they ran out of the Kenyan, and that's normal for me. But what's normal for our country is not being instituted. We have a bottleneck of 3,200 children at the border, which is a very abnormal situation. Parents dropping their children off at the border because hopes that the children will have a better life. Health and Human Services is supposed to take these children in, but they leave them with Border Patrol, which is very abnormal. Health and Human Service, 3,200 children, but this has only seemed to happen in Texas. If you look at the border at California border or the other borders, it doesn't seem to be happening, and that's why? If I had a choice to go into two places and drop my child off in hopes that they would be taken care of as a parent, I think I'd be trying to make the best decision I could. I would say I would drop it off in California. Jigsaw knows I would drop it off in California because the Health and Human Services is a larger faction there, and they actually have systems that take these in, and you don't hear about it. There's a large border crossing in California, and it's probably as equal as Texas, but right, they don't use their resources. Texas resources. I watched the governor on TV, and or the CDC manager, not the CDC, the health department, which is Health and Human Services manager, complaining that Biden wasn't doing enough. Biden's only been president for barely 2 months, and he hasn't even had a chance to acclimate himself to where the pens and pencils are on his desk, rather than taking care of a problem like that. But there was an expectation that Biden would change everything within the magic thinking, they would change the country within weeks. It was just going to happen. There was going to be this, Trump was going to flow out and Biden was going to flow in, and this expectation of magic thinking was going to happen. I've seen that in the news lately. It's like, you idiots. The bottleneck is in the Texas Health and Human Services Department, which is holding up and that's not normal. What else wasn't normal? The normal in Health and Human Services is just distributing the vaccines, getting everybody back. We have a $3.6 trillion a year costly organization called Health and Human Services in America that we all pay into most of our taxes, and they do nothing. They throw the responsibility to the CDC. And that's very abnormal. And I think these are the questions that normal politicians would ask. But in this world of oversensitized people, and I did put up there on the top that I think we have to start running desensitization therapy to most of our news media and most of Americans coming out of this year shutdown, uh, get them out. We can walk them out of their houses. Guys like me can go and we can walk people out and go, this is what the outside looks like. There's an orange thing in the sky, and it radiates heat, and you can walk around out here. And I'm just joking, I'm being hyperbolic, yeah, but we have to desensitize people into becoming normal again. And if we let abnormalcy and lunacy and absurdity run our nation, this is pretty much what you're going to see. And this boils down to a bigger MGTOW question with men's rights, too. So we're going to probably cover that a little later. And you know where I'm going with that. Has the Health and Human Service Department ever acted normal in any situation towards these are the same people that run the divorce system, they run the marriage system, they run they run the human trafficking. And the hypocrisy of these people running human trafficking is when a divorced male has to pay somebody else money to survive out of their check and they don't get it, that's human trafficking. There's hypocrisies all over this thing, and that's why it's important for MGTOWs and men that care about men's rights to look at these things and look at what's happening in our country now. And I want to say hello. Hello to everybody that showed up, Jigsaw and my normal people. Joey won't be joining us today. Joey's taking I think Joey's taking he says he's going golf for a little bit. Normally around this time, Joey changes phones and then he has to get acclimated to his new phone. And so Joey won't be in today. If anybody wants to come in, I'll take the invite thing and copy it to my clipboard and paste it in the chat. I think that'll go through. Yeah, that's the StreamYard chat, and we can continue talking about normal. What is normal? What's normal in your situation? I don't think my normalcy has been interrupted at all by this pandemic. I do the normal things I do. I get up, I roast my coffee, not every morning, but a lot of mornings I'll get up and I'll roast a small batch of coffee, whichever ones I've chosen that are peak freshness and I'm going to like the most. And I do that. And that's normal for me. I get up, I make my coffee. Let me turn up the sound a little. I don't know if that's too high, but hello, Black Wolf.
Hey, how's it going, man? I'm happy to be here.
Good,
I
good.
was cutting up a storm last time. I felt kind of bad about it almost, but
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. We picked the topic of normalcy, and normalcy for a MGTOW is a pretty big topic, and normalcy for our country, sociological normalcy. You've probably been listening,
hmm
so there's a lot of little facets that go into normalcy. But what's important for most people, most Americans at least, is normalcy in their life. What we do every morning, how we go about our normal day, and it seems it seems to be it seems to be a little disrupted still. But there's this promise that it's going to get back to this idea of normalcy. Now, I don't want anybody to say, "Hey, Joe, there is no such thing as normalcy," because that's a fallacy. Uh, the normalcy fallacy is just that there's no such thing as normalcy. Would Kuhn would say that there's a scientific normalcy. The normalcy is we interact with each other, we critique each other's stuff within the given paradigm, and within the given paradigm, there was a paradigm shift last year too in our society. Well, there's a huge one. So what? What's normal within this certain paradigm that we exist in right now is the question. How do we break out of it, and how do we do this as MGTOWs? And did this affect you at all?
well, that's a lot to unpack, but I'm gonna tackle it. The best way to do this is to. I know a lot of people would say that an overabundance of individuality is the problem, but it's not really that. It's it's the fact that there's so many people that go out of their way to be an individual or to be air quote special that they
Right.
become nothing but a cookie cutter like
Yeah.
everybody else. And
Oh yeah, I used to. There was this great in the '60s when I was growing up as a kid. There used to be this in front of the movie theaters. You had a lot of signs. One of them was a hippie sign, and it was the sign that actually came out for what's the acid movie when they take acid, something orange. Uh, um,
um, toxic. Dang, I forgot the
yeah,
name of the
orange,
movie.
something orange, and it was great. But it started off with large print, and it talked about normalcy. It talked about what you should do, what you should do, and at the end of it, it said, if you're doing everything this poster says you to do, you're not what you say you are. You're not doing normal because you're doing what the poster says to do. It was about communalism and normalcy, the normalcy of communalism. And what do they call that? It's the big complaint about communalism. The right takes that. But go on and
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious, man. And that's why my solution to dealing with it is I treat it like a burning building. Save as many people as you can coming out of the building, but I'm one of those guys that I'm not about to pick up a water hose and go to the fire hydrant and try to put it out either. I've saved as many people as I could get, and those who chose to stay stayed. Those who chose to put it out will be the ones to put it out. And as the as the old saying goes, sometimes you have to destroy in order to rebuild. If anything is going to be rebuilt,
yeah,
because
yeah, it's going to be rebuilt. It's there was an interesting topic about fires like that, and about is it normally the normal thing is try to leave the building. Each individual has an individual responsibility of trying to leave that building immediately. And well, how would you react? And would you go, well, it's not going to jump apartment to apartment. I'm safe here because it's not here. That would be absurd, wouldn't it?
yeah, it would.
No. Yeah, I woke up late today. I was slept in a little bit. I was looking for orbs last night. And yeah, so normal individual, you do bring up individual. Now, there's a difference, and I did a video on this, the difference between being an individual, unique person and what we call autonomy, having autonomy, and being individualistic. There's a difference in those words. I think in MGTOW at first we were being called to be individualistic, and none of us are over. We're not special. We're not those overly individualistic people that are that there's a demand for in this world, I guess. But the normalcy of individualism was you're just a regular person trying to get along in their society. You're not too overtly different, even though I am kind of overtly different than the rest of the people, but not too far. There's a great philosophical. Generally tends to go for when we're dealing with the disabled, the mentally handicapped, and everything. The difference between a mentally handicapped human and the rest of the humans is very small.
True.
When we look at it, it's very small. There isn't even hardly an unnoticeable. But you get slight incongruencies in their behavior, and then that's considered abnormal in our society. But it's very small. And if you asked most counselors and doctors, they go, yeah, there's very little difference in humans. And most of us at one point of our lives will display some of these symptoms. Most of these symptoms, I'll get confused once in a while. Oh, I'm bringing my coffee and I forgot my sugar. I was like, where did I put my sugar? Did I put it back in? Oh shit, I put it in the refrigerator. Why did I put the sugar in the refrigerator? Stuff like that. We all get over stimulated at a certain portion where we're going to act like I'm not going to say there are. We got to come up with a word for the R word that we can't say anymore. And then it's just so funny when you say it too. Like,
I'll definitely come up with one. I'm
yeah,
working on making a new set of terminology since people are hell bent on copying, MGTOW like our terminology. I'm gonna make
yeah,
up probably about like I've been writing them down in a book. I'm gonna make up probably about 40 new words. Just
that,
have them
that's
play the guessing game.
that's a that's the thing. MGTOW made his terminology so we can talk amongst each other in privacy, knowing the individual philosophies of each sentence or each word that we made up. Hypergamy, gynocentrism. All these words come from the MGTOW because I worked on them. I helped with making those back in 2000, 2004 when we were talking on the internet. There was only one MGTOW group open, and that was Paco's. Not contrary to the PUA saying that they invented it, they didn't. Paco's group was the only MGTOW group open. And there was a place called the Spearhead that a lot of the guys used to, and we talked about these words, and we brought these words in that were very non-used at the hypergamy and gynocentrism. They're both from Indian language, or the Pakistani was gynocentrism, and those things. It was simp and white knight, and we created that lingo. And then now that the lingo has become norm, especially simp in society, because simp's so easy for newscasters and stuff like that to like just to shame men with. They can call any man a simp, not knowing the ideology behind that words. But it's becoming normalized in our society now too, that a lot of these words are being used, isn't it?
True.
And
That's
so enable for us to continue our dialogue. If the responsibility falls back on us to to re-examine the words and come up with new, like we just lose, and well, we have to hand it off. We hand the football off to society.
true.
Isn't that weird? And still they acknowledge MGTOW very little. They won't
That's
even.
what's
That's usually in a writing or scientific situation that would be called plagiarism.
Yeah, it would be. And I've heard really funny, stories about us as a group, like, oh, we're a cult, we're this, we're that, and
Yeah,
I laugh at it because factually they can't prove that. I tell them, okay, we're all these things. Where are our leaders? Where is our HQ?
yeah. Where's
Where's
the HQ? We should have one, like I explained last time, but we don't because of so many thieves in society.
I mean, they act like we have a Legion of Doom out there somewhere.
Yeah, there's this legion of doom. Now we are a significant, or we used to be, and we still are a significant social force, which would make us, which makes us what I mean, Durkheim would call we are a social fact. MGTOW does exist. It exerts a certain amount of social pressure on the rest of the society. So we are a social fact, uh, and that's an interesting question of what we are. If we're looking at it in a sociological sense, we could look at Durkheim for we've have all the problems of any other social fact. We've had people act in their own self interest, like a poverty incorporated social fact. We've experienced all these things, and we came through it. And even feminism had to go through this too. I remember when Radfem came. Do you remember when Radfem came on the scene?
Oh yeah, that
Probably
was
really young at that time. Uh,
yeah.
and they were so abnormal to the normal they had to get they actually the group as is. And now this is the difference between a men's rights group and a feminine the feminism called in people of with uh, group dynamics experience. Like myself, I'm a group dynamics person at Richmond University, and and they called in people with group dynamics experience to try to normalize the radfem groups into feminism. And they had that ability to do that and pay those people and everything. And what I say, the difference between men's rights and female rights is money goes into female rights. Men's rights, we don't get paid.
True. Women, the fee-fees of women make money, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. And Forrest, to answer your question, you have it right. I mean, you have to just kind of, you either have to blend in or avoid it, because I've learned that in terms of the whole clown world thing, you can't argue logic with these people. That's why, people get mad at me and how I do my content. I do it that way so that even if they were to take any of my clips, they can never use any of my clips against me. They could try, but it would never work, even if I said nothing. Because when you argue the illogical, you have to fight them in illogical ways,
Yeah,
because they're not going to listen to facts. They're not going to listen to reason.
they're
The
not
only
gonna.
thing they know is their own terminology and their own like little weird way of life. So you have to use their terminology against them and
Yeah,
their rules.
I've given. I mean, how many videos have I done on even a few of the I can't remember the name of it and everything videos, which I point out a fact, a fallacy, and then of how it's used by the right and the left on us, and both the groups, the people that are coming at MGTOW, and how these fallacies are used, and why we should. And most of the people that come around is, oh, you think MGTOW is just like spotting fella? No, that was a small part of my 2,300 videos. And if you would have listened, you would have learned a trick of the trade to spot these fallacies and everything, and how to deal with them, or at least how to point them out when they bring them to us. But that's it's kind of weird that we have these situations in MGTOW. Yeah, our language, the normalcy of our language too. We could talk about it. Becomes a problem of incommensurability, which we call it, where that's where two scientists are talking about the same thing using different words and then saying you're wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly why, like, you have to let them just have at it. What I hate about it is they've just about damn near destroyed comedy. Most people can't even tell you what humor is anymore. It's sad.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Do you think that's the a large uptake of autism in our society? Uh, Autistic people, when we make a joke, most people out in my sphere out there that watch me know kind of my humor, and they easily identify my brand of humor because they're not autistic. They can identify sarcasm, irony, humor, and what's the last one? Satire. But
yeah.
autistic people cannot identify those four things or a portion of those four things, depending on the level of autism.
And this is what's been pumped throughout society. I'm sure you've seen it, like you can't make a joke anymore, you can't
Right.
say this anymore, don't do this, don't do that. And it just creates a very boring world. I mean, I don't want to live
Right. Yeah.
amongst these people. I don't want to live next to them. Their whole life is so predictable and so boring that it just makes me want to throw up. Who
Yeah.
wants to live around that kind of crap?
Yeah. The idea of humor and the idea of that we can make jokes is kind of normal in our society. I don't even, I think even, I can't remember. And uh, some religions that have humor, and I think it's Hindu and Buddhism that sometimes incorporate humor into their into their message, their existential message. But yeah, we've become such a what's that word? We become so intolerant to anything that triggers, and that's basically the uprise of autism. They're easily triggered. And there's reasons for that within the personality types that we talked about before. Well, what are these easily triggered personality types? They're not very extroverted, they're very introverted. They display the, they display neuroticism over, and then but there's could be other things where they're introducing a huge sense of morality. Now, I've never said that morality and the personality types. When you introduce morality into from honesty, I think it's Hexaco starts with honesty, and that's the Hexaco thing. morality is specific to yourself too, and the chains of morality for each person extend certain distances. But in this society, when you're questioning the morality of your language and your speech and what you're saying, and that becomes they're oversensitized to that morality. And that's what I said in the beginning. It's like we have to have desensitization therapy for all these people.
Yeah, we really do, because it's reaching a point, man. It's reaching a point to where we just can't do anything. I mean, Scotland already passed its new hate bill thing, and pretty soon every other place is soon to follow suit. And this is what's really getting me. I mean, anytime you criminalize humor and criminalize having an
Yeah,
opinion, I mean, it's your society is just done. I mean, like earlier today, I critiqued or criticized some PUA's channel. First comment I get, "Who are you to have an opinion? You're just a guy that uploads clips and da 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 and all this other stuff." And I said, "Well, it's still my opinion, and I don't need the world's approval
yeah,
to have that
you
opinion."
have an opinion. You have the right to have your own opinion, as long as your opinion is backed by some fact and not bizarre or absurd. Yeah, you have the right to have your
Right.
opinion, and I don't imagine you were doing bizarre or absurd things. You were just pointing out the bizarre and absurd things they were doing, probably.
I simply asked him the same question, like when it comes to Nate and all those guys. I mean, I'm not like I already did a bit on him, but the thing about it is, I asked this simple question in his comment section about 7 other channels. What did they gain out of this? Like, what do they gain out of telling people this? Is it money, or do they feel good after misleading people, or
Yeah.
is it,
And
or is there
what's the
something
incentive
deeper than that?
behind PUA? They tell young men they go out and pretty much ordain their body in a peacock fashion and go and hit it and quit it in a Don Juanish type way. Uh, which Camus on one side said the Don Juan is an absurd thing because he repeats what he does, uh, and that itself is very absurd. But what do they get out of this is the question. Does they get some sick sense of like I think they do the same thing MGTOWs do a lot with we're helping people. We're helping these
Yeah,
animals get out because I can't imagine there's this poor incel. He's going to go through his whole life without ever experiencing the touch of a woman.
you know, the crazy part is, never do they question how that actually sounds, because every time I listen to a PUA video or a track hunt video, they sound like sex addicts. They sound like
Yeah,
they have a serious problem, because they're telling you, like, when you replace the word sex or pussy or whatever with just drugs, it really changes the whole meaning of what they're saying, because
right.
that's like
That's what I
someone
was saying.
saying, "Oh, you don't like drugs? That's because you haven't, done enough white lines or something. You
Yeah,
gotta
you
you gotta
haven't
try
tried
this
enough
drug."
acid.
Yeah, you haven't tried enough acid to know whether you liked it or not. How do you know? You just need the warm touch of acid. Or
Yes,
some
the warm touches, the existential feeling of being totally confused for all night.
that's that's what they are. I mean, they're drug pushers in a way, and
Yeah,
when you tell them that you can get sex on your own, or rather you just, you're fine doing your own thing, it's
yeah. When you
inconceivable to
simplify
them.
that down to the basics that we do, and uh, when have you ever had a date where you weren't totally confused about what? Because there is no magic connection there. You were looking for similarities in personality, so you had things to talk about, and you had to identify those similarities in personality quickly, or else she would just send you off and swipe right or swipe left.
And that's how it is, man. It's just, when you normalize the abnormal, this
Yeah,
is what we get.
this is what we get, and I think we did normalize, especially with the internet dating and the PUAs, the over accessibility of it now, and uh, the conjecture that it brings up is absurd. It's just plain absurdity. And why would you want to bring that into your life or do that to yourself and everything. And I can imagine that women are very confused about the whole thing, and men are very confused about it because some, I mean, when you look at the how that orb thing I put up yesterday was I was running kind of an experiment on that and see how censored am I? Did you notice how censored I am?
Yeah.
I didn't put no offensive. There was nothing offensive about it. There was no dialogue. It was simple film. It was what would somebody would assume was a very popular subject. It was very well. It's there's a lot of truth in that. I got it from my neighbor. She filmed it, and so I put it up just to see what kind of hits I would get on that. And then I realized that the average was probably 700 to 800 a day on something like that, and I get 50. I didn't even get I didn't put nothing about MGTOW or men's rights or anything in there. So I get the actual censorship downward motion on that. And without the MGTOW crowd even knowing about it, if you're not looking for me, you would never see that video. But that was, I was waiting for me to have a normal response as if I was a normal YouTuber, but that never happened.
Well, I at least try. Well, hopefully I at least tried because I saw that ball of light. That was kind of trippy. I was like, what is that?
That
You
is
know?
very trippy, isn't it? It's a real thing. You can look at that, and that's 100% real. I don't know what it is yet. I was going to do the measurements today, and it, it, it said the doorbell camera said person approaching house, and it wasn't a person.
Oh,
There was some noise on that too. Did you hear the noise at the beginning with something
yeah.
fluttered past the first rail?
Yeah, that was an odd noise. I mean,
So
I've heard about orbs of light in dreams, but never like that. You know, that was
yeah,
it's kind of weird.
so there was some kind of corporeal existence there. If something made a sound at that point, it was corporeal, and something affected something else in a real manner. But the rest of it would seem very incorporeal. So there was a gentle blend between corporeal and incorporeal in there.
Yeah, you know, I think that day, if I was there, man, you might have had to slap me that day. I would have like got like a bag of tuna, wrote resources on them, put in the middle, put them in the middle of the middle of the yard, and said, "Look, I think this is probably the ghost of Elizabeth Cady Saxon. So just to be sure."
The first thing I said, because it was white and fluffy, I said, "That's the ghost of Dougie, my dog." Because it would have been, if Dougie had gone through that, that would have looked like the same way. But Dougie never. But it's funny. It gives me something interesting to look at. She was really freaked out. She's my neighbor. She calls me for assistance once in a while, and I go over there and fix her stuff. And she's very old. She's both of them that were sitting there were upwards to 80-ish. You know, they're in their 80s. So once in a while, she just calls me, and she was freaking out. She says, "What is this, Joe?" And I looked at it and I had no idea. I said, "Send me a copy of it." And she sent me the copy of it. And then I put it on a video on a 50-inch screen so I can look at it better. But the quality is like 144p. So, and then YouTube doesn't do me any justice by enhancing it. So it's interesting. I get to look at that and see what exactly happened. And it'll be interesting. But it's the first thing I've ever seen. Well, there's strange magnetics. I've always said that when we talk about where I live and everything, I live on a magnetic fault. You can look at the rocks around here, and they're the glass type rocks. They look shiny and they're green from the copper and everything mixing and volcanically. And then plus there's when you look at the magnetic rings of the earth, it goes right through here. So we're right in the middle, plus we have a magnetic thing. Once in a while, it's very strange. It's in this area generally when I moved here, I couldn't sleep for a couple days because it was such a strange feeling at night. It was like, ooh, this, even when there's a pulling, or there's often little tremors and stuff like that. And I was like, ooh, this is very strange. And it took a long time for me to get rid of, used to them, the strange magnetics that comes from the undersurface around here, which is volcanic, what do you call them? Isomorphic rocks. So it's a lot of weird things, and that was one of the weirder things that I've ever seen. It was like the first time in my life that someone had actually shown me believable evidence. And why would I think these 280-year-old women would fake, could possibly fake this? It was like, no, that's not possible. And she was kind of freaked out. So there was kind of a dual purpose. One was to just me, and how inquisical I am. I just need to dig into everything that in life and figure it out if it doesn't make no sense. And the second test was when I was thinking about putting it up, whether I should just kind of put it up so I can look at it, or I could put it up public so I can run a test against how censored I am.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. By the way, masculine English, MGTOW. Yeah, you're right. The whole orb thing the whole light orb thing, from what I've read, at least in dreams or whatnot, it could be something very good or something very bad, depending on one's interpretation of it.
Yeah, that's what I was looking. I was looking at both ends last night of the history of the area. And then the only thing that I could come up with on the date was March 11th that this was filmed. March 11th was the earthquake in Fukushima.
Mm-hmm.
So, or the earthquake in Jakua, something like that. And there was two large earthquakes on those days, which would be more geological in sense. And I was, ooh, are we going to have a geological anomaly here? That would be strange, but yeah. Or is this actually some proof of some strange energy? I don't know. I don't know yet. We just don't know, and that's it. What's the guy that man? I miss that guy on the AM radio station that used to do all the orbs and the spears and the aliens and what was that guy's name?
I've heard of something like that. I just
Yeah,
don't
it was
remember the
midnight.
YouTuber.
Midnight with. He always did his thing at midnight, and yeah, I used to stay up, or 11 o'clock. I think he did it here, and I used to stay up and listen to him just because it's fun to think about those things. It's fun. It's fun to think about lizard people. Yeah, and but you have to do this critically, where you don't fall into the fantasy fiction trap. Uh, and it's an exercise in not falling into the fantasy. Coast to Coast with George Norrie. Jigsaw remembers. Yes. Thank you, Jigsaw. Yeah, George Norrie did a great show like that. And he was a skeptic. I see him the same way as I am. I'm skeptical about all these things. And we have to examine everything. We have to, examine things critically in our lives to determine whether they're truths or not. And so that's what I'm going to do this week with that. It's summertime. Well, springtime's coming too. It's a nice day. I wanted to get out and examine the rock formations within the two areas that I'm a rock hound. So go down there and I look at what's happened over the winter, and pick up some pieces of the isomorphic rock, and and then look at what the earth has brought up to me, because that happens around here, and just get out there and just try to be interested in the world I live in. And that's a real MGTOW thing too, isn't it?
That's the way it should be.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
just
could be looking around, So that goes back to the normalcy question. Has my life changed any normalcy wise? So we answered that question. I don't think most people's lives, all in all, the general actions, emotions of their day-to-day routines have changed all that much. So what has changed?
That's the thing. I mean, yeah, as the old saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
why.
yeah. When I look at this thing, I was like, well, the media has changed, and politics for general hasn't changed all that much. There hasn't been no paradigm shift in our world that would give us some tech or anything like that that would change the way anything functions. Basically, the paradigm shift was a virus, back biological thing. Uh, so yeah, it's like it's a good thing. Well, it's probably a good thing. It'll take a whole book to examine what is the return to normalcy will be, and what it did change. What was the thing? There has been no major paradigm shift. As far as how well there with this thing, we got sort of a linguistical paradigm shift, or a written in press, a paradigm shift in these people. And I like I said, I think these people are just generally oversensitized right now, and they're running on pure emotion right now, and that's the thing that needs to change. That's the thing. We need counselors for the media. It's like, take them out. They can come to my house. We can just have a normal cup of coffee, talk like normal people, and say this is how normal people act. And I could take them outside, show them that bright thing that's in the sky. They'll be like, "What's that?" I just, uh, but that's how abnormal they become. I think there's been a large uptake in rhetorics too lately in the media. Just basically logical fallacies that go undetected anymore.
Yeah, that's why, man. It's it's funny sometimes. I mean, the things I read about. I don't know. I'm sure you already know about that Coca-Cola thing. That's still taking me back. Just like wow.
The Coca-Cola thing.
Pretty much. I
I don't
mean, oh, I'll tell you, Coca-Cola is telling its employees to try to be less white or something. It's
Oh,
pretty.
okay. I wouldn't do very well in that. I'm just so white.
When I saw that, I was laughing. I'm thinking, well, that's a lawsuit. But then when I found out who was promoting it, it made it even weirder because that was
Oh,
HR saying that.
yeah.
HR was
The
promoting
HR
it.
had put out for the Super Bowl. I think I seen that in the Super Bowl. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was a Super Bowl ad HR had put out. They really blundered that. Yeah, I seen that from the inception of it. It's like, ooh. And they did do a couple logical fallacies in their commercials that they put out. It's like, this equates to this. And it's like, ooh, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's that's just the kind of crazy thing we've come to now. I mean,
Yeah.
likes to everyone has their stick out, they just want to just keep hitting people with it kind of thing. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
wow,
And is this what, if Coca-Cola feels the need to do that, and what they do is they become more acceptable. Coca-Cola becomes acceptable with the in crowd. The in crowd at this point would be the people that are making decisions on what's right and what's wrong, and who's going to be labeled as these offenders of you know uh, these offenders that we can. There's just offenders out there now, and who's going to be on the other side and who's going to be on this side, and yeah, what's that thing? Yeah, and it's the same thing as the PUA question. What do they get out of it? What do they get out of it? You could be on the right side, even though half the country thinks that they're the wrong side, because you can't get Americans to agree with anything. You know, we see this in football a lot now. I think the Haslams, which are the Browns, I'm very familiar with them since I am around Cleveland and I'm a Browns fan. The Haslams do that social justice, and the social justice is I'm not a I've read Rawls. I read Rawls social justice, and I read Rawls justice, and so I kind of I kind of know what Rawls was getting at in that, and then Novak's argument with Rawls and everything, and the philosophy argument with that would come from two other guys with the postmodernism and that stuff. But yeah, it's like it seems to have veered from a scientific fact of normalcy, which Kuhn would say, what is normalcy by Kuhn? Is people having normal critique and normal critique of subjects within the current paradigm. Is like, is all that stuff normal critique of subjects within the current paradigm?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, you bring a good point. The only problem with these people is they don't want to be critiqued. We live in a culture where the mere act of you critiquing something is considered an attack on their person, according to them.
Yeah, you're supposed to, within the normal paradigm, you're supposed to critique things. I think this is not just a scientific thing. It's as a human, you do this. You question. We do it with skepticism. We do it with deconstruction. We do it with even existentialism. We critique what is presented as us of our normal society. This is within the current paradigm. We do it normally, but like you said, when your critique of these things is looked at as that's not normal at all. So they are out of the normal.
Yeah, that's why, like, I'm trying to avoid saying the word, but if we just brought back, nothing draconic, but just a survival of the fittest kind of mentality, it just in a small element, I guarantee you, we could get the world could cleanse itself of some of these people.
Yeah,
it needs to.
Yeah, and a lot of their things that they're pushing right now, and I think there is a push on it too, which looks different. I say if they would accept one thing, and body shaming, for instance, and disability, people with disabilities and stuff like that, that's a very good thing. And I think we can look at this within our group of incels and say, what is an incel? An incel is a male that has a disability, and he is being shamed in our society too. You could see the when they talk about incels, and would you shame a woman with a disability? Why would you shame a male with a disability? His disability may be very minor too, but we go back to my critique about mental health. These things are sometimes very minor, and they're just sometimes not even spottable. And if we looked at ourselves rationally, we'd say we all have these certain disabilities at some point in our life. If I hurt my arm and I couldn't lift from that side, would I have that certain disability that say a handicapped person that couldn't move their arm? So I would know of that disability. I mean, the lucky part is most of us heal, and most of us don't retain those certain disabilities. So we can look at our incel brother. Have you ever been through a period when you were dating that you just had a drought?
Oh, definitely. And this is why I may make a lot of jokes, but when it comes to any kind of disability or any type of drawback, the reason we as men are judged more harshly for this is because not because of the problem itself, but due to society viewing it as being not optimal.
Not optimal. Yes, I think he hit something that you're under this male optimization. you're expected to give most all you can all the time.
So that's why we get a harsher criticism for it. And what really gets me is a woman doesn't have to be, disabled in any shape, form, or fashion. But if she is or anything like that, people say, "Oh, Black Wolf, don't you dare, say A, B, and C." But I noticed that same courtesy is never extended to men,
No, the same
regardless of what
courtesy,
problem
the
we have.
latitude that is given is not extended to men. There's no latitude that's extended to men. The chains of disability should not affect us. They say, "Oh no." Yeah, Susan. I can't remember if anybody remembers the feminist that write about it. She says now all women are born with a disability, and I'll believe this from the Susan.
Susan Strawn.
No, she was an intellectual, philosophical writer of sociology
Oh,
in 1998. But I'll put it in the low bar once I realize who it is, because I can't remember everything all the time. Uh, she writes a book about feminism and disability, and if you type that in, you'll probably get her name right away. Feminism and disability papers. Because most women are born with a strength disability, right?
hmm
Upper body strength. They're born with the disability of actually having children. Because of that, we can be as males and as MGTOWs and everything. We can be rational about these things. Uh, uh, yes, they are born with certain
oh,
disabilities. Size, dimorphically, they're born smaller. Speed, they're slower. Uh, there's certain mental aspects there too,
yeah,
and
I-
then bacterial wise and pregnancy wise, them are all
true.
disabilities.
By the
Uh,
way, I think I know who you were mentioning. Was it Susan Wendell?
that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think there's famous papers on who she writes in feminism. She wasn't very well took into feminism because of her. They say, well, that is a disability. Now, if we looked at it generally in that sense, she's a sociologist, so she thinks very much like I do about these things. It's probably very scientifically and method. There's a methodology within. Bring out my book. It's this big on the methodologies I use to determine these things. Uh, but when I look at incels, I say, do we extend the same latitude and disability to them? No, we don't. Oh, JK's in the stream. Sorry, JK, I didn't see you there.
That's fine. I had to figure out how to use StreamYard too.
Oh
So
yeah, it's very easy to figure out. It's a
Yeah.
lot like it's a lot, and it gives you an entrance point too. And so they do a good job, just like Hangouts. It's almost like Hangouts. You just got to get used to where the buttons are.
yeah, it's
See,
just the new interface.
The new interface, yeah. How you
yeah.
doing, JK? It's been a long time since I've talked to you. How are you?
All right. Yeah. I'll kind of do my own stuff,
Good.
but this is my subject.
Oh yeah, disability and
Nice.
disability and the way males are looked at in society is very much different.
See, I had to.
Yeah, right, and also the like uh, I don't really care anymore. I am the COVID police. And they're rolling out crazy laws and stuff like that
Yeah,
to control people.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
And we're gonna collect and sell your health data.
oh yeah, yeah. That's all going to be through Health and Human Services, which was my health and the normacy of how Health and Human Services are interacting with the society has switched to an abnormal way, and that's when I would always bring up Durkheim with the social fact. They're starting to work in their own self-interest, aren't they?
Uh, yeah, and also it's all about money and
Yeah,
too because you remember Gattaca. Uh,
yeah,
we're in the stages of establishing Gattaca.
yeah,
and-
yeah. There's
yeah,
different. Uh,
Because I know you're in a conservative conservative states, but in the liberal states, the blue
Yeah.
states, we'll shut down your life completely for 2 weeks if you test positive. And that test, the PCR test, that's really inaccurate. And even the guy that made it said it's not for testing purposes. It's for research.
Yeah, was that the
See.
swab test or the?
It's a PCR test. That's where they spin up the blood.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's under a. Oh yeah, they're using the old
This
Western blotters on those, aren't they?
See, this is why, this can't go on forever kind of thing, and this also could have been predicted as well. And this is what I mean. I mean, we as men are going to be the casualties of this. I mean, for me, I haven't had to too much worry about it because I stay away from everyone. I mean, the anxiety helps. I had to explain this to one of my own god kids. He's like, "Oh, you stay away from people, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, because anxiety kicks in. It's different when you're performing. It's just we don't get any sympathy for our issues. In fact, people make fun of us for our issues as if we should be ashamed of something that we literally, cannot help. I didn't choose to have anxiety. I didn't choose to have PTSD. I didn't choose to have, this avoidant thing, but I did make the active choice to put myself in a good position to where these problems are not as bad.
Well, we were rational, so we develop systems in our life to self-organize our life. So we, even with any disability that we may have, are not. We we develop systems in our life to overcome those things and try to normalize in society.
Because that's what we as men do. What
Yeah.
pisses me off is when I see these people, they'll say, "Oh, don't say that word. That word triggers me. It gives me anxiety." And as someone with anxiety, I hate those people because there are people that have.
Yeah, there's a misinterpretation of what anxiety is. A slight when you're veering from when you're sensitized by a word or something, it's not a generalized anxiety. Generalized anxiety has a very specific meaning within biology, within scientific research and stuff. There's generalized anxiety is horrible. It's a medical condition that's horrible, and when they use anxiety in this lesser sense,
It really cheapens and it pisses me off because like I've had panic attacks. I've had to deal like it took me a long time to be comfortable speaking on a stage in front of people, and people will say, "Oh, Black Wolf, you performed, you made jokes, you did this." I'm like, "Yeah, but I did so under an anonymous sense. It's different when like people know who you are and you're doing A, B, and C, and it's just some people are just uncomfortable with it. It's like some would call it a version of urbanophobia or something like that. To me, it's not a phobia. I can still go up in the city. I just don't feel comfortable around the fakeness. I hear everything, conversations 15 feet away. It's the loudness and the overstimulation that I don't like. That's why I don't go to places like New York or Vegas or stuff like that. I can go there, but only for a brief moment in time, and I'm kind of freaking out while I'm there, but I'll do that for, friends, family, if they really want me to go. That's more what I'm doing for them and not so much for myself. So I can try to be someone involved, but I'm always looking for the exit and the entrance and everything else. It's just, shit just makes me uncomfortable. A lot of people don't get that. This is why when I see these women or other people going, "Oh, that word triggers me. I think I'm having a panic attack." I look at them. I just stop and look at them.
Yeah, have you
Preaching
ever had
to the choir.
Do you know what a panic attack is? I mean, I can't remember the test. There's a test that they give, they used to, because it was considered inhumane to do it to doctors. They would give belladonna to a person to enhance the
symptoms.
The symptoms of anxiety, and go, now you know what it feels like. And then when you went off the belladonna and you were administered well, I can't remember what the cure for it is, galanthian. You would know you had a real knowledge of what anxiety is, what a panic attack is, what a person that's going to come to you and require you to have a specific knowledge
Understanding.
understanding, which I call an epistemological standpoint view. You have a standpoint. You have that perspective point that we talked about. You have a perspective on that. You know how bad it is, and but that's unethical to do that now. And I don't know how they do
True.
it. They do it, and yeah, I've been so separated for probably 20 years now from
They
that community.
they do it by via feelings and everything. I mean, they go and they won't actually try to understand it, but they'll take out their little book and then try to point out, is this what you have, sir? Like it's like a Blues Clues way of handling it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
to the people watching this stream right now, to summarize up what he just said, like I'll tell you what a panic attack feels like. Imagine somebody's having a heart attack, but
yeah.
not all at once. It's just building up to a heart attack because it mimics a heart attack quite well.
Well, it mimics a heart attack. I've had them after my event when I was poisoned, but I used to have panic attacks after that. It's like, which are real, and I understand exactly how they feel and everything. They will shut your body down, and you will shut down and need to remove yourself from all stimuli. Uh,
Yeah, it's like plugging something in and like a toaster or something, and it goes on the fritz, and now you have to unplug it completely before it goes like explodes.
you have to reboot the system.
Yeah, you gotta reboot the whole system, and that's why like I get angry when I see these they've managed in Clown World, they've managed to turn what would otherwise be a bad thing into like a badge of honor to gain victim points. Like words trigger me. I can tell you this right now. I've never been like, despite the issues that I've had, no word has ever caused me to have a full on panic attack. It's normally like it's situations that cause that, not words.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
they're lying when they tell you that that word caused me to have a panic attack. That's them overreacting. And what they really do is they hurt people who actually do have those problems. They hurt them because now they can't get help because of these idiots. And that's what they do. They think it's cool. You go to places like New York and like all these clown world places, they think it's cool to have such issues, and that because they air
Yeah,
quote
it's
have this
become
issues, it gives them a
socially,
green light.
it's become like a social badge of honor if you can, I've had
Yeah.
depression. You don't know what major depression is. Most people with major depression kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. You don't know what anxiety is, and these lesser senses. But I just had a lot of times with movies, I couldn't watch for probably from 2000 to 2015. I couldn't watch certain movies because it was anxiety filled. If that anxiety built, then I didn't want to feel that after my event. And one of the movies was what we were talking about the other day with Wanda and Vision, and I didn't know how
Yeah.
Wanda and Vision had came about, and I didn't realize that that was the portion of my life, the Age of Ultron. I never seen the movie. I had never seen that movie,
I'm
so I
sure it was
so
pretty
I couldn't
enlightening.
identify with these two characters now. And it's like, why can't I identify? And I realized that I had shut TV out of my life at that time.
And that's what's pretty funny about it. I mean, I did my thing where I went off the grid for a while too, and then when I came back, the world was just different to me. I couldn't quite explain it. Things that used to bother me didn't really bother me as much anymore. And it just, the only thing that kind of gets me is these people that think that like having a problem gives them a green light. I've been extremely depressed before, and for me, I like being around nature.
Yeah,
My animals keep me happy. They
yeah,
give me something to wake up in the morning to do and everything. Everyone has something that keeps them going, even if it's just on a small degree. But what these people do, especially in clown world, they believe that if they have a problem, then they can just do whatever the hell they want. Because anxiety, I can kick everyone I want. Anxiety, that's what they do,
yeah. I have
and
a
they
friend.
make people hate them.
Yeah, he's a disabled male, and I have a friend that he comes around, and but he'll actually use his disability in a way that like it's like, don't talk to me. You'll be in a store and he'll get mad at, don't talk to me. I have a disability. It's like, don't, don't. It's like, and I try to, so he and I know he needs that. He feels in this world that he's not protected. He's not
Yeah.
this. It's the same with the gun laws now. One of my big bitches with the gun laws is, okay, if you take the ability for some people to have a gun away, who's going to be there to protect them? Didn't you have any notice of the fact that the police only show up after the crime's done?
Yeah. That's
So
that's the
who's going to
thing.
protect? Can our government assure that the handicapped and the disabled and the handicapped are it's like a segment of the Group X theory that I have. Like the handicapped are the most victimized people in this society. Can you make sure that they're going to be protected if you take their gun rights away from them?
And that's the thing. I mean, we live in a society that's so hypocritical and so funny. First they'll tell you, how dare you amass all that stuff to defend yourself? We'll protect you. You cut that out right now. And then when
Yeah,
you go with them, you now have no protection. You go, hey, I called you guys hours ago.
yeah,
Well, we were late, and that's why I refuse to put my fate in the hands of others, and why I mentioned that
right.
thing
The police
earlier.
are supposed to show
I
up before the crime happened,
exactly.
and
That's why I refuse to
sure
put my fate in the hands of others. And what really gets me is to those in the comments section, every time somebody air quote has anxiety or panic attack or PTSD, these fakers out there, what
yeah,
they do is that they ruin it for people who actually have those problems, and we're the ones that take the blame for it, not them. We're always the ones that take the blame for it. Well, they'll say, "Oh, remember that guy did A, B, and C? Oh, you'll do that too," kind of thing. And the thing about it is, what it's to the extent that I even tell people nowadays, you have to. I mean, you can take whatever, like you can go talk to anyone, take whatever meds you want, but ultimately, you're in your own body. You have to figure out the
how
best
to, yeah, the
way
best.
to live and go about your life, or
You know
else
what
it's
this
just going
does?
to make you messed up.
You know what this does too? There's a pharmacological aspect of this too. It's like the opioids or like the uh, the SRIs and stuff like that. People with this light version of anxiety go out and they get some Prozac or some what's the most common Zoloft or something, and then we take
Yeah.
studies on the Zoloft and we include these people in like they had anxiety and they never really had. So that's so how do we look at these people if this certain prescription works or not is up to people that are lying about their anxiety to the world anyways, and there's just maybe people that are have personality conflicts.
Yeah, well, just to add, Cymbalta is usually the first.
Cymbalta is now, yeah,
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's lower grade, so but I mean, then also in like, yeah, Cymbalta is low
okay,
grade
yeah. Cymbalta's
Zoloft.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
bone
The,
pain.
the thing the thing that gets me is like a lot of practitioners, that's their first go to. And what I've done in the past, whenever people come to me for help, I tell them, okay, don't take something unless you're sure you want to take it, because people have, had bad side effects from it. And I tell them, try to, like, you can talk to anyone you want, take all the stuff you want, but unless it's severe enough to require it, you have to make the
So
personal
yeah,
changes in
you
your
have to
own
make
life
personal changes in
to
your life.
not
Yeah.
deal with certain things or to lessen the impact. I don't
Right.
like a lot of people, so I don't live around a lot of people.
Right. There's
You
abuse
know?
drugs within the pharmacological society of the which is not Zoloft, Xanax, and what's the three benzodiazepines are abused. Now these people going for the people that really need, and if you're having a panic attack and you need a Zoloft or not a Zoloft, a Xanax, you really need a Xanax,
Yeah,
and that ends it, and you can't get it now because there's so many people trying to get those for a light case of anxiety. They're and that'll go to if you're rich enough or have the best insurance and you're a person that's in media and something and you go down, you're trusted, and so there's this whole abuse faction of this thing too now. And you know as well as I know when I used to have my panic attacks from the chemical things that being poisoned. There was no drug in the world that was going to take that away. And I realized that, so I didn't take what and they tried to give me all sorts of one. The first one that they gave me actually was the reason why I have low sugar now. Uh, and it was like I was starving myself to death because I couldn't eat. I couldn't do nothing. There was intestinal problems from being poisoned. Uh, that I was just starving myself to death. So they gave me this one, I can't remember, and it made me eat. But now I have low sugar because of it. And but there's abuse to these things too, and which we have to look at in this oversensitized society that we get a very bad. How can you do the methodological studies on these things possibly with people that are so easily triggered?
Yeah, to add on to that, the main problem is really the mainstream allopathic medicine. It's a pill,
Yeah,
so and then that's pretty much the money. So they're making money off your disease,
right. They're making money off the
and they're
disease.
you're making money off your pain. You're making money off your
I,
death. They
I
know
know
what
this.
they know what they know how long you're gonna live.
I
Right.
know this is a messed up thing to compare it to, but I compare it to the same thing traditionalists, the PUA, and the government does. They do the exact same damn
They
thing.
do the exact same thing. So there's overlays intersectionality within gender dynamics and that stuff to this problem. Now, John, you probably know one of the best medicines for that kind of anxiety is something you cannot possibly get, and that would be an opiate, a light opiate.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, I'm on the no drug, no nothing
Nothing. Okay.
phase
Yeah, me too.
because there's a lot of stuff you could do um, at home, even reverse COVID. There's a lot of stuff you can do at home, and a lot of
Yeah,
stuff you could change in your life. A lot of stuff you can
structure.
do to improve your uh, anything that's affecting you.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what I went in earlier about a normalized structure and a normalized life. This sort of stuff too, cognitive therapy is probably the best thing you can do ever is talking to another MGTOW and having a group that's accepted to go to. Uh, you talk to other MGTOWs, you normalize this. It's cognitive therapy, and it's the best thing you can do for generalized anxiety. Uh, but there are other ways which normalizing your life patterns and not breaking from those patterns. And what I would say is you have to. It's like my coffee. I do this. I get up and I do this as a normal pattern, and I do it a little different than most people. I look for the best coffees, and it's a joyful moment in my life when I sit down and I do my thing with God, and uh, I, I invite him to come every morning. And when he doesn't show up, I realize that I have to do this life myself, and then that kind of normalizes my patterns in the morning. But yeah, there are things like you said, JK, that you structure in your life is needed.
right. Well, I mean, also like what we're what the COVID cops are trying to prevent is direct sunlight,
Direct
all
sunlight. Yeah.
all these old ways that require no money.
Yeah.
Uh,
You do what I do in the morning too with the light bulb in the kitchen. Do you have a sunlight in there?
I have infrared lights. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I do it right when I get into my kitchen. I turn on my kitchen. And I have a big sunlight that warms my body in the cold days, and it feels great coming down on me. And then I just sit there and I like look up at it while the coffee's brewing, and
Cause yeah, you know that MD, he's making money every time he diagnoses you
yeah,
Yep.
and prescribes you a pill.
yeah. Whether he's just doing an experiment in his own mind. The MDs, I noticed that way back when I first went through my event, that they were giving me, they had no idea whether it was working. And then when I was coming in, they were asking me questions about if it's working. It's like, you should know.
That's the crazy part. I've had doctors try to give me like trial, air quote trial medication, like stuff because they want to make their own medicines so they can get rich or something
Yeah,
richer. So they'll give you some placebo or dummy kind of shit, and it's just really funny. The first time I had a doctor ask me, did I want to take that? I immediately threw the Scottish accent right at him. No, lass, I don't want to try your poisonous medicine.
yeah.
I just,
Now you
I just
brought up
couldn't get.
some Cymbalta. It really works for fibro is bone pain with and
Uh,
I remember
well, I
back in,
don't. Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, Cymbalta is really for like generalized
yeah,
anxiety,
that's what
depression,
they
like
use it for,
depression.
but it has
Um,
another use too for
but I mean, like,
fibro.
no, fibromyalgia and neuropathy, they usually prescribe Neurotin
Yeah, Neratin or Lyrica or Progabulan,
or Gabapentin.
Gabatin. But yeah, Cymbalta is used for the non-muscular pains, and that worked very well for me. And it's one of the things I remember about this subject. We just uh, when I went into a doctor, when I changed areas, I went into the doctor. I had to change doctors, so I had the prescriptions that actually did work. And I went in and I said, "This is what I need." I wasn't gonna and then they gave me none of them. They were like, "Oh, we'll put you back on this program of experimentation." And I was like,
And this
"No,
is why I caution people. I mean, if someone really feels like their issue is severe enough to need the medication, that's a decision that they should make because people should explore their alternatives, just like solitude. And as Prophet was saying, solitude for me was a good thing. It helped me a
oh
lot. It helped me understand myself. It helped me understand what I was going through, and a certain plant helps every now and then.
yeah." And that's pretty
But
much what work. I moved out this way because the city, you can imagine being in the city of Cleveland that wants to eat you up, spit you out, and throw you away while you're going through a medical problem in your life, and there's no empathy for you, and that become very cruel. So I had to move out this way, and it's where there was a better, which I assumed it was better, but I don't know if it was better. It's just more solitude out here. But I go to the park every day, and there's nobody around, and there's distances between people. And that reflects in the generalized the generalized social atmosphere too. Uh, that distance, but you're not cramped up in a city situation. People generally act different in those situations in rural areas. Um,
they do. I mean, most people, I've noticed that people say hi, good morning, and
yeah,
everything. People are a lot more mannerable, at least from what I met. It puts me at ease. I don't have people, swooping up on me and everything because
right.
the one thing I hate in the city, and city people do this a lot, they walk very closely behind you, and that kind of freaks me out a little bit when they do that.
You know, it used to freak me out. The sudden stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Something during the day. So at some point during the day in the city, there was going to be something suddenly stupid, and somebody was going to be walking around with their underwear with a knife or a sword, running up and down the street, being chased by a cops, or something suddenly stupid. It's like and bizarre, and then I'd have to see that, and that would automatically just kick in this. Oh God, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, that adrenaline, man. Half the time when I was growing up in the city, people laugh at this comparison. I swear it was like playing Pokemon, dude. You turn the freaking corner, the moment you make eye contact with one of these stupid NPCs, they're gonna bother you.
Yeah, and my empathy level for that's when I first came into MGTOW. When I walk around the city, my empathy level for homeless people just rose so greatly because I now had this newfound empathy and a sociological. Uh, it's like a epistemological standpoint opinion. My empathy became so great I couldn't even hardly look at it. And 20 years ago, that's when I sort of decided that I had to help, and then I had to look into it. And then that's where the MGTOW comes on. I had to look at why are these guys homeless, and It was like, and that was generally, now this is when your general anxiety towards seeing something like that would inspire you to do something good in your life. And that's where I think that's the general anxiety that most people see and fear, that when they see in these small senses of anxiety that they're having, they know there should be taken an action, and it should be a good action. It should be an empathetic action. It should be an altruistic action. But instead, we have people that are neurotic and narcissistic that are acting in those general impulsive ways.
And this is what leads me to the when I was talking about, I think I mentioned before, I mentioned before in this room, the hedonism. It isn't just in terms of sex, that it's in terms of everything, and that's why I can't stand the PUAs. Even in my blue pill days, me and them would go at it because I would be trying to make meaningful bonds with people. It wasn't this whole lust-based crap, but if they'll do that with sex, they'll do it with anything. I mean, and the thing about it is, how far do you think they'd be willing to go if they're not getting that? I mean, are they willing to kill for sex? Are they willing to
It's
rob?
a dangerous thing. It's like, how far were they willing to go? Now we can circle this back around and land this thing in the MGTOW frame of gender dynamics. And that's what we say about the PUAs. It's like, these are men that have these maladies. And one of the maladies is their impulses to have sex is greater than, they're not able to turn it off. Like I said, the most Americans, most men, I would say most men, the default position of sexuality would be asexuality. They're not thinking about it while they're doing a task. They're not thinking about it while they're washing their laundry. They're not thinking about it while they're fixing their car, or even sitting down at night watching a movie and having a beer. They're not thinking about that. But PUAs don't have this ability to turn it off when they need to. They're always thinking about it. They're always in a neurotic state.
This is why I view them as dangerous. I view them as just as dangerous as a meth head running up and down the street, because that's how they present themselves, and they really need help. I mean,
really need help.
As I always say, strong men don't fear other strong men, but you should fear like weak men, because they will forever be more dangerous than virtually anybody. The weak want to subjugate the strong and then complain about it at the same time. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but that's what we're seeing today. They want to get rid of all the strong people, become the new de facto leaders, control them. But when they don't have any opposition and things start to go wrong, they want to cry about it. Like, this is what you wanted. Like, when you give these people what they want, it's never enough. They are enemies to themselves. And they're an enemy to themselves because they can't get rid of their greed, their hedonism, and pretty much their seven sins. They operate on every last one of their seven sins, man, to the fullest. Some more than others, but to the max.
Yeah, some of the greatest people I know in my life are people that have had disabilities, worked through them, and came out making that into one of the greatest strengths in their lives. I know very successful people that have portions of disabilities, but they overlooked it. That's what we should be pushing in society: is how your character is, how you handle these things, and could you handle them better? And even if you do have a disability, you can move forward in life and make that into one of your greatest assets just by pure force.
And this is why my jokes, I like to believe, are therapeutic for everyone, but they're mostly like therapeutic for myself as well, because I reached a point where, okay, I don't want to be sad, I don't want to be depressed, I don't want to be, pissed off about my situation. So how do I get out of this? And I spent a long time thinking about this, and finally it kind of hit me.
Yeah.
Even if a situation is crap, find at least one thing funny about it. And as silly as that may sound, it can turn the whole situation on its head.
Levity is great. I try to find something funny about every situation, and in that way, I know it's a strange way to what we talked about the other day with I can't remember the word I used the other day for that. Is like I levity makes it a little. It's a way of coping sometimes. and a
So
little levity helps you cope a lot.
yeah, and I just call it personal therapy. I mean, a person can go to all therapy they want, but I believe people could benefit a lot more from personal therapy, like being in solitude, being in the wilderness, just being alone with their own thoughts. And if they have to write it down, even greater, like write it down on one day and a couple days later, write down whether you feel the same way or not, and then gauge this, analyze this. And I think a lot of people don't do this personal analyzation enough,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
strange because they analyze everybody else, but they won't analyze the last person they'll ever analyze is the person in the mirror, which
yeah.
is
Yeah, right.
strange.
I want to add because I'm disaster response staff. They do all that uh, disaster response training stuff, and a lot of it is about mental health and stuff like that. But they don't consider the disaster response staff. They only talk about the case,
Right.
so they don't care about the worker. They only care about the patient.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now there's a lot of professional like caretaking is a good example of that.
And there's nothing like what you guys are saying in that class about like their idea is like 5 minutes of meditation at lunchtime.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that'll work. Yeah. Now we talked about or the last time we talked about cognitive closure, and that's the word I was trying to use before cognitive closure. How we get cognitive closure on these things. Levity is the way some people get cognitive closure on ambiguous situations, and that's what we're talking about. And J.K., do they use Peter Sandman's work, Dr. Peter Sandman's work, and that still?
Uh, no, I don't remember or if I looked at that up or not.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Peter Sandman was the crisis, what they do in crisis in America. He was the authority on that, at most, and I think he's still employed with the government and crisis management.
What was his name again?
Dr. Peter Sandman.
Yeah, because I actually paid $50 for like my own disaster response recovery
Yeah.
training, and it's like
Oh yeah, I think I took that too. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like and the stuff that the health board offers, they're worried about translating everything to Spanish and trying to communicate with Spanish.
Well, this is the problem with our Health and Human Service Department because they're putting together these uh, really bizarre. That's the narrative they're pushing when they have some real solid. There's some real solid examples out there of people that have done really good work. I think Nesbitt and Cohen were in on that too with this kind of disaster. And Dr. Peter Sandman was one of the people I look to when I look for crisis management or disaster management. Uh, uh, but yeah, the Health and Human Services, the people we give $3.6 trillion to a year have become a disaster in this country.
Yeah, and they're worried about reporting because I report to the feds too because
Yeah,
they're waiting for the feds
I'm
to pay the state.
I'm
right.
gonna go on. Oh, my bad. I mean, interrupt anybody.
Okay. Yeah, it becomes of their self-interest. They want to generate more funds for this thing, so they come up with these bizarre things so they can generate more funds so they can get paid better. That's what I was talking about with the social fact, the triangle of the social fact. They filter it through themselves, not the people they're taking care of.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
gonna.
it's like they don't think it's harassment to blow up people's phones and their text and
Yeah.
also like oh well you got a 51% response rate for interviews and compliance,
Yeah.
and
I'm
then it's
gonna.
like oh well that's too low of a response rate. We need to do that more. And it's like well how?
I'm gonna go on ahead
Yeah.
and take the hit when it comes to saying this. I'm gonna go take the hit with this. It's one thing to accommodate people, but I just think we in the West, we go overboard with it sometimes. I mean,
Right.
I've traveled to other places. No accommodation was made for me, and I'm not suggesting we become these hard asses about it. But it's just we aren't the parents of the world, but
No,
we're
you can
being
do it in
boosted up to be that
proportion.
way.
Yeah, yeah,
But the health board is trying to do that.
Yeah,
you could
All
do
the
I mean,
women that I work with, they're older, and they think they're Dudley Do-Rights and order followers, and they think that they're doing good when they're actually shutting down people's livelihoods and assigning me
right.
cases that I shouldn't have gotten, where it was it's a different team that was supposed to respond to the prisoners, but they assigned me the prisoners, and I didn't even have any training for that. So it's like, oh, well, they're using the emergency to get away with murder.
Oh, I know a girl that does that. She does a very good job at it. She gets all new releases and organizes releases, and she is very. Oof,
Right.
that
But I
job
was
is.
supposed to be trained to for.
Yeah,
There's a special
yes,
team for the prisoners,
yeah. She
and
has
it
a.
was just a released prisoner, and it was assigned to me, and he blew up me, and pretty much traumatized me, and talking about how he's gonna kill me. Eh,
sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not trying to
horrible.
laugh, but
Yeah,
it's
your
just
training should. Well, yeah, your degree should. They put these people in situations. Now I know she has the girl that I know that does that has she has like two bachelor's degrees in sociology and that, and she does a good job at it. She's been doing it a long time. But to throw somebody, I do know of an incident where somebody was supposed to take her place for like 2 months so she'd go on vacation, was just heaved into that situation and just totally could not do it.
yeah, I
And it's
know,
like,
uh, online training,
yeah,
40 hours of video online
yeah, the
training.
40 hours.
That's not enough to deal with that type of situation.
I got to bring myself back to reality.
you know, it's pretty funny, JK. I didn't mean to laugh at you, but I've had to unfortunately deal with people that were like that in some point in my life, and it's just I laugh because the reason I really had to deal with that problem is because they just kind of freaking knew. I mean, it's just kind of a like you shouldn't even be forced. You shouldn't be forced in a position like that. And the reason I never really had to deal with it as much when I was growing up, whether I was like in the nursing home helping other people, because other people just knew that I would go the distance with them,
Yeah.
that I didn't
No,
really care that much. And so it was weird because I used to have this friend. He said, "Why is it every time I go in here, they always act crazy with me, but they never act crazy with you?" I said, "Because fucked up understands fucked up." That's why.
different. Yeah, there is a certain, well, yeah, there's standpoint. You know how to treat these people. Uh, JK, I was wondering, there was two things that hit my head when if they put you into this situation. One would be they feel you can do it, or the other, they feel you couldn't do it. Which one was that? You got
I know I was voluntold.
you were told to
Oh,
do it?
yeah,
Oh,
voluntold. Because
Voluntold,
that
yeah.
they put a whole bunch of state staff on emergency response.
Okay.
So I got reassigned,
Oh,
like the military.
so they felt that you could do it, but they didn't,
No, that
or you were just a number.
each state agency had to provide at least X number of people to the health board to
Oh,
be reassigned to the health board.
okay.
So it's a temporary assignment, they say, but it's turned into a year assignment, and they want to extend it to the next year.
This is because of the general release because of COVID.
Yeah, I'm a COVID response
COVID
agent.
response, yeah. So they're trying to get people out of situations where death was an appropriate punishment to their crime. So they're moving them out of those. That I know that sounds funny. Death, and that's we had a situation here in Marysville, I think it was, where they underreported the amount of deaths that were happening in the prison system, and then it was just like, and then they added it to the general public system, and then when somebody found out, it was like the first thing I thought was death an appropriate punishment?
Right. Well, I mean, like they don't. I mean, like it's all messed up, and they're using the name of emergency to get away with murder.
Right. And then on the other side, there was people in prison that was like, remember, I don't know if you remember the Cleveland guy that got put away for corruption. And then he was like, he got out because of a technicality that he probably wasn't going to get COVID, but he's like, okay, now release me. And then there's situations on both ends of the spectrum. And you have to figure that out, John. You were the guy that was sitting there having to try to figure out what was appropriately keeping someone in prison during this crisis, appropriately keeping them in prison.
No, my task is to collect data,
yeah,
redirect them to assistance numbers if they need it, and then that's forward to another team, and then so on and so on.
So you were the phone call to the phone call.
Yeah, I have. It's called case investigation and contact tracing.
Okay, and a lot of times those systems break down. I was doing the last time I did any research on that was the people with this specific problem was given a phone number, and you were supposed to call the Red Cross, and the Red Cross was supposed to assist you with that. But when you called the first phone number, they gave you the second phone number, which gave you, and then they gave you a third phone number, and the fourth phone number was the same phone number that you got in the first phone number.
Right, especially like if they need they're really bad at this about they say they want to help people, but not really. So like after I finish the call with them, and my boss closes it out, a order is sent to that person saying that they have to shut down their life for 2 weeks.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, and also if they do need help, I'm supposed to listen to them, talk about what they need, and then provide them a phone number. And then a lot of these situations, they don't provide the correct phone number, and they don't do a correct surveillance or follow up.
Yeah. When I got the COVID, I had to shut down for a while, and it wasn't such a hard thing for me to do. It was just there was friends that were coming over daily. It was summer, and I was trying to get out, and it wasn't so bad on me, but it's like, but I started taking those. The state was calling every 2 days and giving me the interview thing.
That's what I was doing.
And then I noticed that it closely resembled the Health and Human Service interview for intake. And there was nothing special about what they were doing that optimized it.
Right. I think it's a waste of time, and they needed to modify the script, because they modify the script.
Yeah.
And RP, I talked to RP a lot, and I complained to him, but they modified the script over 50 times. They took the revision date, the revision number off of it because it was revised so many times.
Yeah, I can see that happening, because I had gone through that, and it was kind of funny that they're not talking to a stupid person here, or regular person. Even I'm a MGTOW, and I am the way I am. But when I started going over in my mind what they were doing, it was like it seemed all senseless. And they did provide, like, I think it was $20 an interview or something in Ohio, which I never even received a card. And I was like, well, I could put that towards like I don't know, a six-pack or something. but it was all so weird, and then it just ended, and it was
right. And you get $20 if you tell me who you were close contact, but if you don't have any close contacts, you don't get that $20.
Right. I don't think I had any close contacts, because I am MGTOW. It's like, I'm not going to go out. And I know that they ask questions like, are you not spreading this? Are you going out? And I said, no, I'm not going to go out. What do you think I am, a monster?
Yeah, well, they're trying to incentivize people to rat out who they were around. So then if they were around anything, then I got to go call them.
Yeah. Now, did you get a real respect for the virus after a while? Like, when you hear the conspiracy theories that it doesn't exist, it just makes me crazy, because I know it exists.
Yeah, well, about a lot of people. Um, so if it depends if they're young,
Yeah.
then
Oh,
they know that it's a scam and it's a waste of time. They answer their basics saying, "Hey, I already know this."
well, for them, it's like a common cold. For us,
Yeah.
it's, for a guy
Um.
my age, I mean, I still experience
Yeah.
problems that.
Right. I haven't. I don't have. I never had COVID. Well, I've never even been tested for COVID. Even.
Okay, you kept
Um.
yourself safe. I didn't because I was hearing all the bullshit at the time, and
But I mean, there are people that it affects them differently.
right.
Um.
I was surprised about the different symptoms that I had experienced, and to this day, the joints and it attacks specific problems that you have. Not it doesn't create new problems; it accelerates those problems you have. And it was like, wow, that's a hard concept for people to understand because there's going to be multiple symptoms. That
Right. Most people that agree to the interview don't speak English as their first language, or scared out of their mind, or older.
yeah. Now I never had respiratory problems, so it didn't hit me in that way. But I do have, uh, other problems with the dropping off of the. I always say you. I know this really bothers you. There's only one kind of of diabetes.
Yeah, there's three.
No, I have the other kind where when I drop off and if I don't eat, I get very hazy. And
Right. When in the medical books, there's three.
there's three kinds, yeah. And that was from a prescription that I was given that I was supposed to have a settlement on that, but I never got a settlement. Uh, uh, but but still, that doesn't matter, and it attacks people differently, and it's very complex to figure out. And I think for the first time, I'm optimistic, and that's what this kind of I started off with that. What do we do now that we're coming back to normalcy? Are there going to be outliers that we're never going to get back to normalcy because we've created this society now where everybody seems oversensitive to everything now.
Yeah, that's why we can't make jokes anymore.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
can't
it's
make
just
jokes anymore.
everyone gets butthurt, and I don't like that Black Wolf guy. Cancel him.
Yeah. Now that's what MGTOW can start like a program to help society, and we do well because we do have a certain societal push and force that we use. Like we can, like MGTOW's bringing back levity. Bring back
Yeah, it
levity.
is. That's what we're gonna have to do someday, man. Just get a group going. JK, I'm gonna pull you out of your house and just be like, this wee lass is getting into it again. Cough on her. Just cough on her. She needs to know the truth.
Yeah. Then we could do
Right.
it.
I mean, I have a huge conflict of interest because like they keep on saying, "Oh, you have to do this. You have to. It's an emergency," and the emergency is worn off now, and so they use me
Sorry.
up.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Freaking health board used me up. They say, oh, and then then they redirect the blame on me, saying, "Oh, you're not having a high enough
Oh, of
response
course.
rate."
Yeah, of course they redirect the blame on you because they can't. Yeah, the higher ups in health and human service taking any responsibility for their decisions.
No.
That's why they have them.
And then the worst is when it's like a family or a
Oh,
younger person.
yeah.
They force me to ask the sexual and demographic questions.
Oh, yeah. That kind of bothered me too.
It's
I
like,
felt,
and they say, "Oh no, you can't skip them, and we're not going off the surge script. We have to go to the full script." The script
yeah,
is like 16 pages.
yeah. Now, that's when I refused to answer because I refused to answer those questions in my life. Generally, anybody that asked them, when the girl she called back like twice, and on the second one, She actually amended the script on that because she said, "I know you don't answer these kind of questions." So
Uh,
it was a little different.
right. Well, yeah, it's okay if the person refuses or
Yeah,
doesn't answer that or doesn't understand the question. But the thing is, they still want me to ask it, and
yeah, you
it's
still got to ask.
really
Yeah, she still
uncomfortable.
asked.
It makes me uncomfortable, especially when I mean,
I
why
made
do they need that demographic information?
Yeah, I made the trend. What did I say? I made the joke with her about I'm a transsexual lesbian. I like girls. She didn't get it. I don't think she. I think if she thought about it enough, she'd get it. Like, no, I'm straight. But I
Right,
thought,
and it really pisses off the Spanish because they don't understand it.
oh, does it? The transsexual lesbian.
No, they just say normal or
Normal. Yeah, I'm normal. Yeah.
or I don't understand the question.
Oh that's not an acceptable answer in today's society. That I'm just normal. I like in proportion to who I am, my gender. I like the opposite gender. Yeah, but that's a case of the what we were talking about earlier. The 4% in our society, in proportion, the response in proportion to the 4% of society being like pushed on the rest of the 96% of society, and the 96% in most cases won't understand what you're talking about because the question was directed at the 4%. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's no transparency what that data does and what they do with the data.
Right,
Uh,
and you can answer that question wrong if you're part of the 96%, and you
yeah,
could and they'll go, "Oh, that was just offensive."
yeah. Most people don't like it, and it's like want to skip it.
Yeah,
But I mean, you would think the people at the health board
yeah.
would know that people aren't going to stay on the phone for 16 pages of questions.
Yeah, I remember the kid.
And kind of cut off the stuff that people aren't responding to.
Did they have on that question? Did they incorporate what would you call uh, the questions that contradict the other questions
Uh, yeah,
purposely,
it's kind of a re.
so you can move
It's a
on
lot
to the
of
next range?
emphasis on where they've been and who they've been around with and what
Okay,
places they've been.
yeah. Was that an indicator? If he answers the question, did they give you the little indicator? If he answers the question this way and this one, this way and this one, move along to section B 26 or something.
No, we're. I mean, that's where the training said if they don't go along with the script, you can modify it to where
Okay.
they didn't say it. You were supposed to do that. I'm supposed to do that. The
Yeah.
person
Now they
is
would
supposed
get.
to do that. And then but you still got to make sure you get all the data.
Yeah. Now what I was doing was kind of similar but different. It was we were tracking opiate use, and I was like, it would just be move along if they contradicted themselves. Have you? One of the questions was, have you taken drugs in the last 10 days, or and then the other one was a contradictory question to that, and then it was like if they give these then you just move along to the next section, and then it was like move along, move along. It's like until you get it done. It was kind of ignore. It was I guess it was well thought through, but kind of yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean it's the management is really poor. They are just using the emergency to get away with anything they want.
Anything they
Uh,
yeah.
and It's like, oh, well, you still got to do work, and it's like, oh, you're not allowed to train anything that's non-COVID related.
Right. Now, you know my philosophy on health and human services, and that would be to digitalize it more. Uh, digitalize and pretty much digitalize it so we cut the cost of it and everything. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that I don't understand why we don't have a customer service portal,
Yeah,
and also any transparency about that on our web pages.
right. Usually,
It's just full of information, and they go do information overload of
right.
statistics,
Information overload. Right.
and then don't even make it easy for people to get any assistance if they really need it.
Yeah, well, it keeps the human element into it too.
Yeah, well, all these women, they want
Yeah,
that extra overtime pay, and also the feds to fix um, everything, and pay the
right.
health board for their mistake
Now the block
of
system,
locking down everything.
yeah, the block system that's used now, I think it's just if you complete Form A, you move on to the next block, and the next block, and then you get to. That was sort of trying to do it, but when you think about the ease of it, an American that has a social security number, an identification number, and it would be so easy to make the library the place to go. You just go to your library, it has a portal, and then you go into the portal, and then you answer the questions, and then in 3 days you receive the difference between what you need and what you don't have.
Right, if you don't have internet access, or
Yeah, even if you don't have internet access, and the portals do go out into, well, do they still? You can't get it on your computer. You have to go.
the public portal that I wish we set up is, but we have that for they have that for like the only public information that's on our web pages is for the vaccine scheduling.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
shit too.
and that's broken.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
broken heart.
yeah, and then information overload of statistics, and
Yeah,
how the state and the city are doing this amazing stuff in response to COVID and its
and they're not
emergency.
just screwing it all up. Yeah, I just turned available to get my shot, and then I go to the portal, and then I find out that there's nowhere to get my shot within 50 miles, and I don't drive.
Yeah, well, in California, they're spending bucho bucks on COVID response.
Yeah, they have these massive sites set up that are the CDC sites, but that was my bitch about why isn't Health and Human Services involved where I can go up to I have a clinic at the top of the street that I can walk to. Why isn't this giving vaccines? Why is Health and Human Service this? You should better go to any hospital, any Health and Human Service agency, and everybody has at least two in their area. And get a vaccine, but Health and Human Services has done nothing, and they're the people that get the most amount of money, and they're the people that we would rely on to do this. But and as for what we see from doctors and nurses, that portion of Health and Human Services, they're overwhelmed. And
Yeah, well, they pretty much they're overwhelmed because they let go of all their staff.
yeah, well, yeah, the staffers have they have the
So they only have a skeleton emergency crew working, and they let go of all their non-essential staff.
The non-essential staff, right? But this system, like I'll give the number of $51 trillion in the last how many years that we've given Health and Human Service is 20 years, and these are the people that were supposed to take care of the problem, and they dumped it on the CDC like I can't figure out an analogy. They just dumped it on them like it was a bad baby or something.
Right. Well, it's just how the CDC claims that measles was eradicated. Well, Here's the new measles.
Yeah, that was basically anti-vaxxers bringing back new measles, and that'll happen with COVID too. If we took if we just did a methodological overview of what happened with measles and what happened with what's going to happen again with COVID, is we're going to get the same results, and that should be obvious to them, or even well, not like the Spanish flu. I think I gave the Spanish flu in the description, but that's not going to happen again. I don't think that'll happen. Speaking of flu, we've pretty much masked and quarantine and everything has pretty much eliminated the flu from this world, hasn't it?
Well, they label everything as COVID.
They label everything as COVID. Now, I have interesting. Now, we were talking before about how they do the testing and everything. Now, I said Western blotter. They use the Western blotter with the luminescence now, which is a very new technology that came around June before, and it was produced in the first production of this luminescence was produced in China, right around where. So my theory about COVID was there's nothing new on the face of this earth. It was just now we have the ability to detect it.
But the PCR test, they say it's a gold standard for COVID. When the guy that invented that type of test, that's for not for diagnostic purposes, for research.
It was for research purposes. Yeah, that was I can't remember what the chemical. You just had the chemical.
Because if you have any viral activity, and your body's part viral anyways, your immune system's part viral, you're gonna get like a high positive rate, but it's not an accurate positive rate.
Yeah. Now, up to 2 years ago, we weren't even able to look at this through the spectrum microscopes and then the new microscopes that they have because of the lack of technology. It was sort of like it's like in the 80s and 70s with SIDS babies. It's like we realized that no, we just needed to wash our hands and wear masks around these babies, and it was probably the medical people doing most of the SIDS, and because we didn't know about how viruses were spread as short back as the 70s. And so I say it was a matter of now we've had this paradigm shift in medicine where we can look spectrally at the luminescence of the what was the I can't remember the name of what we were looking for in that, and see it and just say, okay, this is this, and then now we can do that, and now that they can do it, that everything's that.
Right. Well, I mean, like, and also, I don't know about your state, but they're sending out at-home test kits.
Yeah.
Those things are super inaccurate.
Super. Yeah, they do. Well, yeah, we started that, but they quickly got away from that because somebody said, no, these things are like really not accurate at all. Just
right,
the time period in shipping.
But what I mean by is like those things cost money, and the county is paying for that, and waiting for the Fed to pay them.
Yeah. Who is doing the testing, and is this a mass testing area? I think the big thing was the confusion with the I can't remember the confusion with the actual logging of it or something. It's just horrible. And I mean, the machines are going to do what the machines do, and they're going to be specific. But it was the human element again that was made it impossible. And the pure logistics of it made it impossible.
Right. Every time there's a positive COVID test, it's uploaded to a mass COVID tracking system.
Yeah.
And then that data is looked at by select people with management level, and then transferred down to the employees that do the response.
Ooh, that'll always work. we know that works, huh? And
Well,
keeping
I mean,
yourself
like I'm getting
the
like
relevancy, keeping yourself relevant.
yeah, it's like my first boss. All she does is assign the cases and then close them out and checks them before they're completely closed.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God.
And then her other job is to tell us about the massive ongoing changes to the tracking system that we use, because the tracking system we use was created in the 80s to track
Yeah,
sexual transmitted diseases.
yeah, and well, some similarities, but not really. And yeah, people ask me why I don't do this, no, why I don't do that, and I stopped doing that. It is like, these are the reasons because that's a screwed up system there, and
Right, and they won't let me leave.
they won't let you leave. Can I please go back to my original job?
They won't. They say that's too emergency.
Yeah, it's due to emergency. Yeah.
See,
Okay. Well, we're going up
that's why
on.
you that's why you need me there, Jigsaw, so I can pull you out and just like I need you to. It's an emergency. Cough on this man.
Yeah, it's just rationality too. It's just is there a certain percentage where you just see male rationality not being implied?
Yeah.
Right. The response is not the right response to the problem.
Yeah, well, you'll probably hear it all the time, and where you're at is like female intuition over male rationality.
Oh well, yeah. Everyone that I work that's in the health department is. I'm the only guy that's on my team.
Yeah, yeah.
Damn.
So it's like
That's
we could
tough, man.
simplify these things, and that's my whole cure to gender dynamics in this country is based on the idea that we can simplify this whole system and then not make men into slaves, which Health and Human Services says they're against. They're the people that do the human trafficking laws and everything,
Yep.
and they say they're against that, but then they make slaves out of males. So it's like,
It's they don't
which
want
Right.
to
Well,
stop.
like, especially when I have to tell like a family, the father, oh, he has to avoid everyone and pretty much move out of his house
yeah, yeah,
They
because
don't.
he's diagnosed with COVID.
yeah.
They
But does
don't.
that happen? Is that the same as if a mother was
Yeah,
diagnosed with
and this
See, see, the thing is, they don't want to end slavery. They just want to like rebrand it,
branded?
and
Because yeah, because
and that
because like the states and the Fed spent a whole bunch of money on like temporary housing,
yeah. Well,
but
that's good.
they're not utilizing it.
Yeah.
So they put the
Well, they
migrants
can't
in
get,
there,
yeah,
and
they
then so
can't
like
get
if
the
it's
other.
someone that has COVID, technically they want them to go to one of those government hotels,
Yeah. Oh, is HUD the problem?
and then
What's the
be
bottleneck?
removed from their family and friends.
Yeah. What is the bottleneck on that? Oh, moving it from HHS to HUD, or is HUD just sucking in all the money they can?
No, the
Well,
health department pretty much just shares all their data with those other departments.
and they're supposed to be,
And then so like if someone's like homeless,
yeah,
their case record will go to another team and then another department and a different reference number, and then you got like a response agent that's supposed to
okay,
follow up if it's a high risk person.
yeah,
But the thing is, they want to move people out of their houses into the government housing,
yeah. Now that's good for,
and then no one's really following through with that. Now they say, "Oh, well, we need to think about that because we spent the money on the government
yeah,
housing."
yeah, where these billions of dollars are going to disappear into the private sector. Yeah, because yeah, you know what's going to happen in that. It's going to disappear into the private sector because they've acted in their own self-interest, so they can keep their. But it could have been used as a general concept for homelessness too. After COVID is done, we put this $50 billion that was needed into homelessness. We have a system now that could work, but well, it's not going to. It's not going to because they're going to incorporate it into a private network.
Right. Well, like that health data, even though they say that it's protected by HIPAA laws,
Yeah.
Insurance companies and other large companies collect that data.
Yeah, they collect that data. Yeah, I've realized that in my life too about things that I can do and can't do because of my information of being leaked out. Uh, but that's sad. The whole system's sad, and they just
Right.
need
Well,
to.
sorry to unload. But
Yeah,
you
I
can
know.
see that I'm super stressed out
I'll
with,
bet you are. God.
and then they won't let me go on vacation, because of emergency. They took away one of my holidays because of emergency.
Yeah, yeah.
So around the holidays, you're supposed to get like 4 hours of holiday leave.
Did he
Say
say?
saying, "Oh no, you can't use that because
Did you
of
first say
COVID."
raise the pay or anything? Or
Yeah, leave with pay. So it's like 4 hours of you could get to go home early or
oh, you
spend
got
time with your family and do
what is it?
for the holiday stuff. But
Yeah,
they said,
you got
"Oh well, no, you're
accumulate.
not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to use that leave code.
Yeah,
It
do you have accumulated leave of absence that you can cash in, or
You have standard annual leave,
yeah,
but the extra stuff that you're supposed to get, like as a government staff, uh, they took that away. They said, "Oh well, no, we need to make sure that the surge is done during the holidays when I'm only getting like one case a day."
yeah. Oh,
And there's like the numbers are down to like 500 confirmed people a day,
well,
and I only get assigned one.
you can
When
sign
it
one.
when it before it was assigned like, oh well, it's a surge. We're just gonna assign you 25 of them, and plus we're gonna assign 50 of them to you just because during the holiday.
Okay. Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, you didn't get to all 50 of them. It's like, well,
Yeah. That's.
I only have 8 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not working 9 hours.
Oh, there's always that expectation that you give more. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. But okay. We're going on 2 hours and 12 minutes here, and I was thinking about that's about the extent of people's interest. uh, so I'm gonna shut this down. Thanks a lot for coming on, John. You put an interesting perspective on what we were talking about, and it's great always to talk to you. You kind of in the know on some of this stuff, and trying to explain it to people that are not ever having to work with the government or see that program is hard.
Yeah.
Because you can't understand the subtle intimacies and the subtle. There's government.
It's a different environment and a different culture.
Yeah, you have people that have written grants against their program and they're independent from the agencies, and then you have people that are trying to just rape the whole system, and then you have the actual government workers that are are it's like, oh, it's a whole
Yeah,
messy
yeah.
system.
I won't see any of that 1.2 trillion dollars
Yeah, you didn't see any of that money.
given to me, passed down to me.
Well, you know what's happening to that. People are writing grants against it right now, and private organizations are doing what they always do, and they'll walk.
I already got an email how that money be distributed within the health department.
Yeah, it's going to be
They're
just.
going to put like a whole bunch of money into vaccine education and advertisement.
Yeah, and then you're going to have you're going to have different programs coming in that these chosen people are going to get this amount of money to do these programs or put together the slideshow.
Yeah. I already got that
Oh,
breakdown of how that will be distributed between the health
yeah,
departments.
and that's just we talked about people that are within the health department. There are people that are going to get the actual what do you call that? And I did a video on this, and no one ever took the jump to the bid splitting on it. Who's going to get the bid and who's not going to get? And those are people that are families in the environment that within Health and Human Service, these are professional. Inside the family, there you got professional HHSers that the mother was, the son is, the father is, the babies will be in this family, and they protect each other or the cousin there's a lot of nepotism, and then there's people that are chosen, and there's people that aren't chosen to get that could write the grant against the for the project, but the bid splitting goes on, and it's just a whole mess from there, and it's a lot of nepotism, and it's a lot of people that are pre-chosen, and what the criteria to be pre-chosen in this society is, I still don't know, because I was left out. Which brings us into a different system. It's like, how do I, what are the biases, the ingrained biases? And when we look at what are the ingrained biases in our system that would that these people get all the money, the $1.2 trillion, and then these people over here, we're just going to leave them out. Okay, well, with that, I'm starting to get on fire and everything. I'm going to shut this down, and it's a really interesting conversation today. And thanks, Black Wolf, and thanks, JK, for coming on and adding to the
It was a
conversation.
pleasure. It was a pleasure being here, man.
So if you could say one thing on normalcy of what's going to happen in the next month, what would that thing be?
Well, in light of everything that I've seen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to get a lot worse, man. And I'm telling everybody out there, just when shit hits the fan, just be ready. Just take this approach to where there's nothing new under the sun at this point. Anything goes kind of mentality is going to happen. So just sit back, get some popcorn. If you're far away from it, just watch the show.
Watch the show. And John?
Yeah, well, you're just gonna have the illusion of normal, but it'd be a little bit different.
It's just going to be the illusion that, it'll just be the same, but it's going to be a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do certain things if you want to, like, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, how many hoops you have to jump through?
Yeah, you're gonna have clearances.
More hoops.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for everybody coming around. Thanks a lot for Eric and Heidi and John and Black Wolf and the people that Suthi and people that visit regularly to the show and the podcast. I try to do every Sunday. Joey's out with going golf problems for a little bit, and we'll try to get other guests on and fill it with interesting conversation. But most of all, man, thanks a lot for being MGTOW, because if you weren't MGTOW, then I would have no one here to talk to. And so thanks a lot for being MGTOW. MGTOWs.